Just ahead on CTV News tonight, a former Prince George's police officer is found not guilty.
It's unacceptable, and it's crazy at how the truth get covered up.
And the county budget woes are worse than initially thought.
We're going to have to make some serious cuts. And it scares me that it's possible, maybe furloughs, but we would not want that. And we're going to try to avoid that at all costs.
Plus, it's the first day of Hanukkah. That and more all coming up next on CTV News.
Good evening. I'm Byron Scott with a CTV News update. Well, a former Prince George's County police officer was found not guilty of murdering a man in his custody. It took the jury just under 2 hours yesterday to acquit Michael Owen on all counts for the January 2020 shooting death of William Green, seen here. Now, the case hinged on whether Owen, who shot Green 6 times while his hands were cuffed behind his back and seated in a police cruiser, acted in self-defense on the night of January 27, 2020. Owen testified that a struggle over his weapon broke out in the car, forcing him to shoot Green in self-defense. Commotion erupted in the courtroom after the verdicts were being read. Outside, there were expressions of shock and disbelief.
It's crazy. All those days I sit in the courtroom, I heard Owen's testimony. He was lying about a lot of stuff. He was lying about how the bullets were fired. He was lying about who shot the bullets. It's unacceptable. And it's crazy at how the truth get covered up. Because the truth in this situation was covered up.
We respect the jury's decision. However, we are very disappointed. We believe that Corporal Owen committed a crime that night, that he did in fact murder William Green. However, the burden is on the state, and it's a very high burden. There were only 2 people in the vehicle that night that could tell us what happened. And unfortunately, one of them is no longer with us.
Now, Green's family reached a $20 million settlement with the county in September of 2020. As for Owen, police say he remains suspended without pay and that an internal review will continue. Well, Prince George's County leads the Washington region in hospital reconstruction and expansion projects. This according to the County Economic Development Corporation. Of the 18 projects in the metro area, 6 are in Prince George's County. Officials say more specialty care in the area will cut down on rehospitalization, misuse of emergency services, and mortality. Current projects include sites in Fort Washington, Lanham, Upper Marlboro, Largo, Bowie, and Laurel. But when the county council passed its budget in May, a $60 million deficit had to be closed with rainy day funds. But Prince George's leaders just learned that the county's latest forecast show a projected budget gap that will grow from $183 million in fiscal year 2025 and could go as high as $387 million by 2030. The news has left leaders scrambling to figure out how to fill those gaps.
We have to determine what we're going to do. We did a lot of things to implement a lot of new programs, a senior program. I did the healthy restaurants, a lot of those things. However, and also senior tax credit, we did that, police tax credit. We did those things which people appreciate, but the reality is that now we have a turnaround where we have a budget shortfall, and that means we actually might have to cut services. Or some people don't want to hear the word about raising taxes, and then I've pledged not to raise taxes, but raising fees, things like that to fit in an almost $200 million shortfall that we could be seeing, or even more.
Leaders say much of the budget gap was due to federal pandemic funds drying up, declining tax revenue, and a mandatory spending increase in education. Well, a $2.4 billion impact, that's how County Executive Angela Alsobrooks categorizes the construction of the new FBI headquarters in Prince George's. Her office released numbers based on 2015 figures related to the impact of a 2-year construction period. The data include $450 million in construction spending, $192 million in salaries and wages, 2,000 jobs, and $10 million in annual state revenues. The new headquarters are expected to bring more than 7,500 jobs to the county. Well, the competition is heating up in the College Park area as a new Aldi discount grocer opens up in neighboring Berwyn Heights. The new store is just a mile away from a rival discounter grocery store, Lidl's College Park store, and sits across the street from a giant grocery store and a Target. Aldi is one of the fastest growing retailers in the U.S. with 65 stores in Maryland. It's on its way to becoming the third largest grocer in the country. The grand opening weekend continues through December 10th. And the Maryland Attorney General's office ends the suspension of one of its members from the Commissions on Hate Crimes Response Prevention. Zainab Chowdhury was suspended from the commission nearly 3 weeks ago after a social media posts were allegedly found disruptive to the commission's work. The Attorney General says upon further review it was determined that the office did not have the authority to remove a commissioner before the end of their term. Draft guidelines will be submitted at the commission's next session, will include information on balancing freedom of speech with the commissioner's new roles. Well, a nonprofit organization hosted a job fair in Landover today. Job seekers came out to the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition employment event. The group connected dozens of employers with people looking for work. Organizers say more than 800 people registered for the job fair.
Many employers have been on the news saying that they need an employer, job seekers, so we doubled down with outreach, going door to door, flyering at restaurants, street corners, train stations. And we found out that many people do want a job. And so we would just say it's important to go into diverse communities like in Prince George's County, beat the bushes, do aggressive outreach because people are either underemployed, not employed, and many people want a job.
The event was held at the Sports and Learning Complex. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. Coming up, celebrating the first day of Hanukkah. Back in a bit. Stay tuned.
Is a story about religious freedom, of struggling to determine what matters in defining who we are for ourselves.
You gotta believe without seeing. You gotta keep going, keep breathing. When you face a day that feels like you're gonna break, lean on the ones that love you. The guardian angels above you. And think about when pain is just another color.
Welcome back. One of the most important holidays on the Jewish calendar begins tonight. Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Lights, begins this evening at sundown. The holiday celebrates the rededication of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Rabbi Stephen Wiseman of Temple Solel in Bowie says that for the next 8 days, families of the Jewish faith will light one candle on the menorah each day.
Hebrew, which reads from right to left, you start putting the candles in from right to left. But each night, you light the candle that represents that night first, the newest candle. So you actually end up lighting from left to right. The idea that the menorah is supposed to be put in the front window to be seen by the world goes back to the idea that we should be accentuating the miracle and sharing the story of the light. So we have to share the light, so we have to put it where people can see it. Jewish history, though, is replete with all of these moments where identifying yourself as a Jew publicly can be fraught with danger.
This year, the celebration will last until December 15th. Well, it was last month when a three-judge panel struck down Maryland's handgun licensing law. Now, Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is requesting a new hearing before the full Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The underlying lawsuit was filed 7 years ago as a challenge to a Maryland law requiring, among other things, that people get a special license before purchasing a handgun. Brown says the Second Amendment does not prohibit states from enacting common-sense gun laws. And a man was shot and killed in Tacoma Park early Tuesday morning. Police were called at the 6700 block of New Hampshire Avenue just after 3 a.m. That's where they found 40-year-old Marat Pascal suffering from a gunshot wound. He was found dead on the scene. Anyone with information asked to call Crime Solvers at 1-866-411-TIPS. And Councilwoman Monica Fisher and Joe's Movement Emporium are teaming up for a Girls Empowerment event. It's called Barbie Girls Empowerment. Young ladies ages 11 to 17 will take part in discussions on issues that impact middle and high school girls, including self-esteem, communication, and conflict resolution.
They're going to have a lot of fun. I also believe there's a spoken word artist. There's also going to be my partner in this event is Joe's Movement Emporium. So they'll also have a chance to learn dancing and other skills as well.
The event takes place this Saturday from 1 to 5 in the afternoon at Joe's Movement Emporium. The event is free. For more information, call 301-952-4436. Well, a major vitamin manufacturer is ordered to shut down production after numerous false advertising lawsuits are filed. Balance of Nature's whole food capsules claim to cure serious diseases including diabetes, cancer, and multiple sclerosis. The FDA has ordered the company to stop production and sales until it can demonstrate compliance with current regulations. And now Simon Buggs with the sports preview for Thursday. What's going on?
Hey there, Byron, and good evening, sports fans. And coming up in a bit, Commanders head coach Ron Rivera touches on the struggles his team has had this season. Stay right there. Okay, everyone, it's time for your Thursday sports page. The Washington Commanders have had a disappointing season as they are 4-9 and are in last place in the NFC East. With this record, the chances of Washington making the postseason are slim to none. But despite this, head coach Ron Rivera still wants to see improvement over this last stretch of the season.
We're coming up to a four-game stretch, 4 weeks left after this bye, and that's where you need to see it. You really do. And it's about going out there and executing, about us making sure we're giving them every opportunity to be successful, and that's what it's truly about. I mean, you can only say so much about development and growth. You can only say so much about the process. There's a certain point in time when you get to each year and say, now's the time, let's go. I mean, the process is now, and the time is now, so let's see what we can do.
Washington will match up next versus the Los Angeles Rams on December 17th. Moving on to the major leagues, the Baltimore Orioles have signed pitcher Craig Kimbrell to a one-year deal worth $13 million. This comes after the Birds needed a replacement for pitcher Felix Bautista, who will be sidelined for all of next season as he recovers from Tommy John surgery. The 9-time All-Star played well for the Phillies last year, ending the season with a 3.26 earned runs average to go along with the 23 saves. And wrapping up sports, the UMD men's basketball team came out on top in a close game against Penn State last night, 81-75. Their next opponent will be Alcorn State on Tuesday. And the Washington Wizards fell to the Philadelphia 76ers last night, 131-126. They will take the court next against the Brooklyn Nets tomorrow at 7:30.
So going back, everyone wants the Commanders to improve. What's your expert analysis of that?
I do think the Commanders will improve, Byron, because even though this season didn't turn out the way they wanted, and it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs, this is still a prideful team. And I still think they're going to want to make some improvements, whether it be offensively, defensively, or in the special teams. So that way they have some positives to look back on this season and hopefully something to build on in 2024.
Playoffs out of the question?
It's looking like it's not looking good for them.
They're heading that way.
Yeah, they're heading that way,
okay.
definitely.
All right, Simon, thank you very much.
No problem.
A quick look now at our 3-day weather forecast tonight. Mostly clear again with a low of 33. Friday, it'll be sunny with a high of 56. Saturday, sunny again with a chance of rain with high of 58. And Sunday, rainy and breezy, but warm with temps reaching 64 degrees. And that's our news for tonight. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Simon Buggs.
See you tomorrow night. Good night.
Good night.